All right. Welcome, everybody. I apologize for the delay. Thank you for your patience in the waiting room. I don't know how, I've never been in a waiting room before in Zoom. I don't know how awkward it is. If it was awkward, I apologize, but thank you for coming tonight for the Empowered Athletes Overcome webinar. Fortunately, I won't be doing a ton of talking tonight. We have a great panel here joining us. We'll get into that in a second, but the reasoning behind the webinar is, believe it or not, a student of my wife's back probably around this time last year had some concerns about being noticed in the sport he played, and got us thinking and got me in contact with some other coaches and student athletes in the area that I've worked with, and it wasn't just a one student concern. And obviously high school athletics has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, much like everything else. And there's been a year of more questions than answers for high school athletes who have a desire to compete at the next level, at the collegiate level after graduating high school. So as I mentioned, we have an awesome panel of college coaches tonight to share their expertise, insight, and recommendations for those athletes who do aspire to compete at the college level. And speaking of excellent panelists, I would expect nothing less fashionably late.
There he is.
Coach Klepacki. But it really is an honor to be joined by Coach Loney, Duncan, Thompson, Edmed, and Klepacki, in part because they have all had great successes in their different stops on the field, on the court, wherever it might be. But in my opinion, and I think it's more importantly that, the work that they do to develop their athletes off the field and get them ready through sport for the challenges that they're going to face in real life. So I'm honored to have you here tonight, and I can't thank you again for taking time out of your schedule. Before we begin the webinar, it looks like everybody's on mute. Appreciate it from the visitors. If you'd like, you can switch it over to speaker view. That way there you can see the speaker of the panelists. And then just a few points that came up. We had a couple pre-game huddles as a webinar team, and a couple points came up. Number one, I just wanted to stress that these are 5 awesome coaches from 5 wonderful athletic programs in the Northeast. You are going to gain a considerable amount of knowledge from these coaches tonight, but it's important to remember that every college, university, coach, and program is unique, is different. They all have their own philosophies when it comes to building a program and recruiting athletes for that program. And one of the things that came up in our pregame conversations was, for those of you that want to move on to the college, university level for athletics, do the work to learn what that program is all about, what their style, what their recruiting personality is, because you'll be able to better see if it's a fit for you. The second thing is, as I mentioned already, every college and university is very unique. As you get going in the college search phase, it's important to identify what is important to you, what's important to your family, and then try to find the colleges, the universities, the programs, and the coaches that share some alignment there. It'll make the 4 years, I think, be much more productive for both you and the program you're joining. And I think it shows the coaches that there's an above and beyond effort, which I haven't seen any coach that doesn't like that. And then last but not least, and this is courtesy of Coach Klepacki, hey, the recruitment part of your journey is step 1, right? And the real challenges and the real journey begins when you arrive on campus as a college student athlete. So work hard during the recruiting process, but more importantly, work hard when you get up on campus. So, hey, we're going to get going. Like I said, we got a great panel, and it's time for me to take a back seat, and I'm going to have each coach introduce themselves, talk a little bit about where they're from, what they coach, how long they've been there, and how COVID has impacted their programs. And we'll start with Coach Josh Edmed from Connecticut College.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Dan, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As Dan said, my name is Josh Edmed. I'm the head women's volleyball coach at Connecticut College. We're a D3 institution that competes in NESCAC. I've been there for 19 years. I also serve as the associate athletic director for facilities and operations. I've held that role for about 12 years. So I have I think like most Division III coaches, I have my hands in a lot of different things. From a impact of COVID standpoint on us, we've been really fortunate to have a pretty progressive president in terms of I guess pushing the envelope in terms of student engagement. So we have all of our students have been welcome back on campus all year. Athletics has been operating all year. We're limited in the fall. We were limited to just being in person within our institution. This spring, we've opened up for outside competition, which has been really great. And we're super fortunate to have that, and lucky to have a really robust healthcare team around us to support that and give us the guidance that we need. And I'm looking forward to engaging a little bit more after hearing from some of the other awesome panelists.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you. We'll send it over to Coach Thompson next.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kelly Thompson. I'm the head women's basketball coach at Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. I've been here for 11 years. I've known Dan for a lot longer than that. We were students together at Springfield College, so I really appreciate him reaching out and giving me this chance to be on the panel with these awesome coaches and all of you guys who took the chance to come on here tonight. Our season was effectively canceled, for all intents and purposes. And we just recently got the green light to get a few games in this spring. Normally we'd be finishing up about this time, but we're kind of getting going for a handful of games. Just like all of you, my athletes have, kind of gone through the ups and downs of dealing with COVID. And I think what's been really interesting is, for better or worse, as athletes, we tend to really make that our prime identity. And when that's sort of taken away, or the majority of the opportunities to compete or practice are taken away, it really kind of makes you try to figure out who you are and navigate through this in a different way. So, being flexible and growing in other areas of the game has been really important to them and in our program. And hopefully we'll get a chance to share some of that with all of you tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Thompson. Appreciate it. We'll send it up to Bowdoin College. Coach Kevin Loney, take it away.
Thanks, Dan. To the rest of the panel, good to see everybody. My name is Kevin Loney. I am the running backs coach and director of player development for the football program at Bowdoin College. We're also in the NESCAC along with Coach Edmed. I've been here. This is going into my 7th fall here at Bowdoin. From Middletown, Connecticut. Dan and I are very close. We've been friends for a very, very, very long time. Probably too long, but it's okay. His dad is actually one of my mentors. How COVID affected us at Bowdoin, a little bit different because of our location and kind of the way that our campus is set up. We decided pretty early on to not bring all of our students back. So we only had our first year students and seniors who needed our campus facilities basically on campus for the fall. It was a really different campus for us in the fall. This spring, we have our returning students, not our first years on campus. And then we have a number of kids who are taking gap semesters or studying remotely. So how that's affected us in terms of athletics, we've practiced with all of our student athletes. Right now we're practicing with all 31 of our sports right now, which is kind of interesting to see how that's working. And we just announced today that we're going to try to get some contests going here for the end of the semester, primarily for our spring sports that can do that, and with an eye towards being back to full strength come the fall and being back to full recruiting and everything is hopefully for the summer. It's been a challenge for our kids, I think, just because, kind of like what Coach Thompson talked about, our kids, our students as highly academic as they are, they also see themselves as athletes, and not being able to go out and compete against people and travel and do all things they like to normally do. It's been a battle, but they've done a great job of kind of sticking together and persevering, and that's been a big thing. So it's gonna be really fun to talk with everybody tonight and see, hopefully find some different ideas.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Loney. And Coach Duncan is on the hot seat next. Take it away.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here and great to see everyone else on the call too. As you can probably hear, you've always got to have the token coach with the funny accent. So Dan's brought me in to kind of fill that void. But as you said, Coach Duncan from the University of New Haven. I will be going into my 12th year at New Haven, moved over from England to play my college soccer career here and just never left. Obviously our season was cancelled in the fall. We are back running around now this spring, which is really exciting to see. Our spring sports will be up and running this weekend, and then the winter and fall sports have the go ahead to start engaging in scrimmages within the NE10 over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So we're really looking forward to that. Obviously, as all the other coaches have said, that COVID, impacted everyone's programs tremendously and differently too. But some of the things we really took away from it was, have enjoyed from it, is getting to know our student athletes in a different way. We're so used to knowing them just as athletes. We spend the majority of the time with them on the field. When we shut down actually this weekend last year, and we were not on the field between March and August, we had to continue to engage with our athletes, but new ways. Zoom calls, more one-on-one academic meetings, which normally happens to some capacity, but we had to do a lot more talking and getting to know each other than the X's and O's that we would normally do. So it was a unique experience to go through, but I think in the long run can only benefit us.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Duncan. And last but certainly not least, Coach John Klepacki, take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks everyone for getting on tonight. And, I've been at Western New England University for 20 years and I'm the men's lacrosse coach. And, I think the experience we've had with our players in the fall with how some of the restrictions were, there was actually some advantages of the way the NCAA looked at it, of being able to space things out and provide more time to have interaction, like Coach Duncan talked about, of, just even skill development. And, I think athletes have a little more appreciation towards our sport and being around each other due to COVID. That right now with the way college settings are, there's a lot of restrictions off of making sure that we keep the spread down and everything. And we're in person at Western New England, and to be able to go out with your teammates and get a practice that everything feels that it's normal, and be in the weight room and stuff like that. I think there's a greater appreciation towards it. And I think coaches are, you're going to find a way to innovate. And I think tournaments and directors at clubs and stuff found ways to innovate also, where, there's a lot more video now, but, I think it's a lot more of maybe almost like a football model that has created some great opportunities for us to reduce travel, but still connect with student athletes that have desires towards majors that fit for our university.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Klepacki. Thanks to the entire panel again for being on here tonight. And we're going to get into essentially 3 topics over the course of the webinar. One, focusing on physical and tactical preparation. And obviously we have different sports represented here, so it doesn't need to be too sport specific. We're then going to move towards the middle topic, which is academic and social emotional wellness, because that's another area of student athlete's life that's been impacted. We'll finish up with our last segment that's going to get into some strategies to maintain lines of communication open with college coaches and recruiters. We'll finish up with a Q&A at the end in the chat. So throughout the event, if you have something that pops into your mind as a question, throw it in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can at the back end of the event here. So, obviously we all know high school sports has been impacted, whether it be, delays in seasons, cancellations, before a season got started, or, especially for a lot of winter sports here in Connecticut last year, you get through the regular season and the playoffs were postponed or canceled. And it's been a year of that. And I'm going to throw the first question to the panel, and Coach Klepacki, I'll have you bat lead off here. From a physical, tactical, stay prepared, stay in shape standpoint, what recommendations do you have for high school athletes with regards to, hey, we're not practicing, maybe we're not able to get into the weight room. How can I stay prepared from a physical standpoint?
So, I think body weight stuff was stuff that our guys got creative with, when the gyms are closed and even when the gyms opened up, feeling like, was it safe at a certain point? Maybe you have a small bubble and someone's got some form of a home gym, but I think if there isn't access to weights, I think body weight activities and body weight workouts and Tabatas and stuff where, we're increasing our work capacity, being able to do sprints and running and, being comfortable of whatever our sport needs are, of being able to gain a good physical base below that, so that, I don't think you need to hone in on your sport specific. It's general fitness and general conditioning will help you so that when you do get back into it and things are in a different capacity, that you're able to, be in a point where, you're in good shape, I think fatigue affects how much enjoyment we have on a field, so if we're in condition, we have a great attitude, it's not that hard of a drill and we're able to compete at a higher level. So the more time that you control your controllables and your fitness level and your diet and stuff like that during this time could be great, could be awful. Right. And it's choices that we make. So, if we make some sound choices and we look at to say, I want to play at the next level or even against that, I want to have a great junior year or sophomore year or senior year, being able to, go for runs, and bike and do stuff. And especially when you think when COVID hit, we had spring and summer and fall, we had good weather, and take advantage of that and find some area that, you can train yourself and turn it into a game.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Coach Duncan, we'll go up to you next. Again, same question, same topic of response.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just piggybacking on what John said is, you control what you can control right now. And what we've said to our players that have come in is the fitness aspect of it. Some of them weren't necessarily able to get out there and kick a soccer ball, play 11v11, even play 5v5 pickup. But what you can control is your level of fitness. And what we've really noticed now that we've been back on the field for the last 4 weeks this spring is the players that came in fit and took the opportunity just to run on the slab of pavement during the break are picking up the skills needed quicker or, dusting off a little bit. The players that didn't come in fit, they're behind developmentally because they can't sustain a full practice right now to catch up from where they're behind. So, don't panic about thinking you've got to get out there if you're at whatever sport it is and play a full-on 90-minute game of whatever you're supposed to be doing. Come in fit, ready to go. And if you're fit, you'll sustain longer practices and you'll get those skills that you've been missing out on for the last, 6 to 12 months back a lot quicker than somebody who's not at that fitness level. So like you said, control the one area you can control, and that's your personal level of fitness.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Duncan. Coach Edmed, how you all were on campus since, the fall, so you obviously missed out on some of the spring. Talk a little bit about how different it was in this environment to get the team together and train versus past years prior to COVID, and what successes did you have at Conn College, making sure your athletes were in, solid physical condition, even though you're modifying what your normal practices would look like?
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. I will kind of tackle the second part of that question, which is related to what the other two panelists just mentioned, and maybe some helpful information for those that are kind of tuning in is, so one of the outcomes that I feel like we'll see, and I'm hopeful for, is the less overuse injury for our athletes, and just particular with volleyball, it's a very explosive pounding sport. It's not very fluid. And we have a lot of overuse injuries between knees and shoulders, and it was really refreshing to see our athletes having to do a lot of different things besides being in a weight room and training specific to their sport. And I'll just throw it out there that for those of you guys here, JTW Fit on Instagram is a home run of at-home exercises. This guy is awesome. He just won America's Men's Health Next Top Trainer, and almost all of his content is free through his Instagram channel. So give him a follow. He's amazing. Another one that I throw out there is called Trooper J Rowe, and I'll put that stuff up in the chat after. And she's a female, a really strong female athlete and competitor. And same thing, she has a lot of great content online. And I think that's important for us to kind of be able to, you know, not everybody has access to a private gym or a personal trainer. And this is free stuff that's out there for us to be creative and use a lot of body weight stuff at home. So thanks, Dan. And then the other part of your question about just how we kind of handle things with us on our side was, it was a really collaborative approach that we took. It was, honestly, I was so nervous about operating in the fall. I was extremely nervous about being in a gym with our players, and we kind of just had to get a pulse every day of where everybody was at. And usually it's like, as a coach, like, you want to go in and set the tempo and be like, you know, here's our vision for the day, let's get after it. And I almost was like, God, like, what's our vision today? Like, it was just such a different aspect of things. So I think we brought a lot of empowerment in from our players in terms of just getting a pulse of how everybody was interpreting that situation. And I grew a lot as a coach, and I think a lot of the stuff will stick with us moving forward. But that was the biggest takeaway is getting that information, and it allowed us to learn a ton about our players and kind of knock down some communication barriers, and just really helped us move forward in that sense.
That's great. Thanks, Coach Edmed. And Coach Thompson and Coach Loney, I'm going to kind of flip it on you. We're going to stay under the umbrella of physical fitness. But I'm going to ask you two to speak to a little bit. How can a high school athlete, you're most are playing team sports, right? You know, there might be a golfer here and there, or, you know, a swimmer where you're competing kind of by yourself. How can a high school athlete build up some sort of stock with their teammates, or set up a system where they're able to kind of hold each other accountable, even when they're not in the same room, weight room or conditioning room during set times, and they're off on their own doing that? Is there a way for a high school athlete to build that rapport with teammates? And yeah, I'll ask that you both speak on that. And Coach Loney, we'll have you bat lead off here.
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the best things that I've seen so far is if you're getting some sort of like a team workout, even if you're doing individual sport, if you have like an individual workout that's been given to your team, in the age of social media, you know, hey, challenging your teammates. And so one of the things we've done is over the course of, we sent our students home 2 days from today, in March. And one of the things we started doing is, okay, let's start challenging each other. And hey, put it on video, you know, do it through social media, do it through GroupMe or group chats, whatever it's going to be. Hey, how many burpees can you do? How many laps can you do in the pool? Whatever it's going to be. And, you know, if you're an athlete, you're going to be competitive, you know, because it's really, it comes down, it's you versus yourself, but also you versus your teammates, right? Because nobody wants to be the person who got the least amount of whatever. But also, it's also that, hey, the person who is at the bottom end, hey, how do we help build them up too, to get them to a certain threshold?
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Coach Thompson, take it away.
Yeah, it's funny for me to hear, Kevin talking about that, because we did something really similar with our team, both over the summer, and then, normally we're going pretty much straight through the year with just a small break at Christmas. And this year my team had 2 months off. So, we tried to be equally creative and sort of took, what Kevin's talking about and made it actual team competitions. So like each week we would have a competition, 1 week, maybe it was mileage run. The next week we assigned point values for different sprints that we had, and each person had to report it back to their team captain that week. And it sort of became a competition within our team. And I think, whether you have that structure within your own club or high school team or not, even if it's one buddy, I mean, having somebody that you can kind of be accountable with, I think is great. I also know that, like, as athletes, we tend to really love routines. So when it's not, structured for us by a coach, it can make it a little harder. So I would encourage everybody to develop some kind of routine, and sort of like what we had to do with my team was redefine our purpose. Our purpose wasn't going to be preparing for our games. We had to sort of rethink how we were approaching practice, and then our breaks and how they were preparing for us to return, not knowing if we had games. So I would just encourage you to sort of reflect on redefining your purpose. Like, what are you going to do with this time right now? And how can you develop your routines as an individual, and then hopefully like incorporating teammates to kind of have more directed purpose while you're trying to work out.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Thompson.
Yeah, Coach Thompson's made a great point, about sometimes you get bored of hearing coaches sometimes, right? There's no reason that, hey, even if, again, you're in an individual sport or you're in a team sport, there's no reason, hey, as players, you can't build a workout and, hey, let's pass it around. Hey, players, you build a workout and challenge each other, Maybe you pass, hey, coach, what do you think about this workout? And hey, now it's team. Now it's also you're building some team leadership, some team ownership. And again, if there's a kid, if you're a person who wants to be a leader on your team, there's what's stopping you. Go ahead and do that. All right.
Awesome. Love it. And great points across the board with the controllable and the creative kind of fitness challenges and the benefit of those types of activities as well. You improve your physical health, wellness, but listen, as an athlete, you can always learn how to compete a little bit harder, right? Whether it's, at our family, it was who finished dinner the first, so you can get in line for the seconds, right? So learning how to compete in environments is going to make you a tougher athlete on the field, on the court, whatever it might be. Hey, great start, coaches. Thank you. Section 2 of our webinar tonight, going to move away from the physical preparation and more towards two elements that are often overlooked in athletics, academics and social emotional, right? And, again, COVID's had an impact on how we learn, how school is done. It's had an impact on how we socialize. And there's, studies all over the place about the level of depression, going on in people, not just young adults in high school, but people in general. So we're going to ask the coaches during this round. I'm going to split it up a little bit here. Coach Klepacki and Coach Loney, and I'll have you two speak a little bit to the, along with Coach Duncan, to the importance of and some strategies for staying on top of your game academically. And Coach Klepacki, I'll have you bat lead off when you're ready, my friend.
All right. I think one thing that I heard over the break last spring when we were off was, and one of the coaches brought it up, is like routine, right? So as athletes, we're always used to a routine, and everything was shook up. And I think you have to embrace the word new normal, right? Like we heard it for a while, and we kind of shiver when we hear that. But I think this gave us a chance that you can hit a restart, and you have to look at and evaluate, how do you go about your business, and where are you most productive? How are you the most productive? And then creating some new routines for yourself. So maybe certain simple things are not going to be situations where you're expending your energy on it because you've already kind of planned that out. I think if we try to go through our day where we're going to just like, hey, how do I feel or what's going on and we don't have enough structure for ourselves, you can waste a lot of time. And I think on the academic front and even on our personal well-being, being able to have some type of, routine for yourself that you need to do and you stay consistent with, and, being able to have some goals for yourself, even though, you're not having games or you're not worried about getting in the starting lineup. You have to kind of plan those things out and look at what your academic course load is and plan that and plan study time. We talked to our guys a lot about, hey, how are you going to use your 168 hours? and try to plan some things through. And then, that means you got to shut off Netflix because you said you'd go to bed, and say, I just can't binge The Last Dance again, and you got to kind of give yourself a little bit of discipline to. It shouldn't be that hard to make some of these choices because you've taken some time out of your day to plan what you're doing. And we talked about planning the night before and then in the morning recapping it and maybe journaling to help yourself out so that you stay on task and stay on focus. And I think some of the things that we did in the spring, a lot of the upperclassmen carried over while they were back on campus, even though they were in in-person classes, things were different. And our time management and stuff like that is important. So that's what I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. And we'll shoot it up to Coach Duncan next.
Thank you. So one of the little mottos we try to go with since we went to remote learning is still get up, get dressed, and sit up straight. Obviously so many classes are online right now, but we asked the students, how do you look when you went to a physical class? I know some colleges, some kids like to go to school in their class in their pajamas, but, we tend to try to stay away from that. So we talk to them a lot about how would you look in class and how would you sit up in class? So we're trying to keep them out of sitting in their bed, doing their Zoom classes. Get out of your pajamas, get up, take a shower and get dressed because, they are required right now to be on camera in Zoom. So, get dressed and brush your hair. Like you wouldn't go to class looking like that because it just changed the mentality of how you're actually thinking about the class too. And then with some of the students, we do have areas on campus that have been set up for quiet space and socially distanced. So they might not be in a set classroom, but if we have some of those students that, may struggle to get out of bed once in a while to go to class, we set them up in a classroom, set them up in a booth in a library. So they're physically kind of more engaged in their class. So that's something that you guys can think about individually. Like, what's your motivation when it comes to class? Are you laying around in bed listening to your teacher, or are you getting up and sitting at the dining room table? Because I can guarantee if you get up, get dressed and sit up straight, you're going to be a little bit more successful in that class because your mind's going to be in the right place.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Duncan. Coach Loney.
It's amazing. Everyone's it's all dead on. So one of the things that we do is with our students, with our guys, is I give them at the beginning of each semester a time management grid, and basically it maps out their daily schedule, Sunday through Saturday, from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 at night. And basically they put their class schedules in and practice time, so on and so forth. And really what I wanted to do is see how much actual free time they have. And it's okay, when you get, and then they give back to me. And then what I usually would do with them is, okay, and kind of to everybody's point so far is, when are you gonna wake up? When do you take a shower? When are you gonna have breakfast? Don't go to class on an empty stomach. Have breakfast. Nutrition actually matters. Your brain doesn't function when you don't eat properly, all right? Okay, you have all this free time. Plan your free time. All right, I've got a hard class. Okay, put time away, set time up so that you can actually, study for that chemistry class. Do those little things. And if you put it on paper, you're more likely to do it, right? If you know that hey, okay, I've got one of our guys right now who really struggled in the fall because he wasn't planning, didn't have a routine. Okay, well, so far, it's early on right now, but so far so good this semester. And part of it is we actually have mapped out for half an hour his weekly schedule. All right, let's make sure that you're doing what you have to do every single day so that it becomes routine for you and you're used to it. Yeah, you're at Bowdoin, you're at one of the best schools in the country, but if you don't do what you're capable of doing, you're not going to be at Bowdoin, right? It doesn't matter what school it is. When I was head coach at Nichols, we did the exact same thing with those guys. You have to do it. And if you don't manage your time, if you don't plan it out, it's going to manage you. And you have all, and I think it's really important we've talked to recruits about this too. You're going through COVID right now and if you're studying remotely, you're more like a college student now than you actually even know. You have more time on your hands now than you even think that you do. So the more you learn to manage your time now effectively, you're going to be ahead of the game when you get to college.
Love it. Love it. And we're going to switch it over and go ahead, Coach Klepacki.
Danny, one thing I'd say too is, one of the big things we had to do with managing our guys is, no one wants to have a bad form, right? So you'd have these guys that put out like this unbelievable detailed plan, and you'd ask them, do you think you could stick with this? And they'd maybe say 24 hours, right? So like, it's one of those things about, you got to know yourself. So if you can't sit, when you sit in a Zoom for 50 minutes, you got to get up and you got to go for a walk, or you got to unplug for a second. You got to plan that time in there also, and then plan the hard study time in, because you're going to put a fake plan up. So like, put a realistic plan, or, hey, I got this class and this, and I want to go study at 2:00. So at 1:00, I'm going to go for a run. Because when I get done running, I feel good about what I want to do. So planning downtime too, like, hey, this is when I'm going to go, and I'm going to go play some video games. Hey, this is when I'm going to do this. Those are those things that make things a little bit more reward. Like, I got this work done, so now I can do this. And having that aspect of, you got to plan some joy out of it.
Yeah, no one should work 24 hours a day, right? You should find something that makes you happy, brings joy to you, brings joy to the people around you. And as Coach Klepacki just said, it's finding that balance. Like, challenge yourself, but be realistic about it. I'm 5'9", overweight, retired, broken athlete. I never set a goal for myself to be able to dunk a basketball on a 10-foot rim. Very challenging. Realistic, not so much. So push yourself to be be realistic with yourself, give yourself an honest self-assessment, and then work on planning out your day. Great points there, coaches. Coach Thompson and Coach Edmed, I'm going to have you two bat lead off with regards to the social emotional piece. And I think, Coach Thompson, you said it in the beginning, how you're a college athlete, you identify with playing this sport, and suddenly that's ripped away. That's not easy, right? It's not easy on the emotional side of things. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges your athletes maybe faced in that regard, and some of the ways that you help coach them through those challenges over the past 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it just like, about the athletes identifying as athletes, but just as like human beings, we're social creatures. And I think, even if you're an introvert, people want to be around other people. And so COVID taking that away in I think initially, and even to this day, it's still sometimes like, oh, I can't do this, or we can't go here, and I can't see that person. And, I've had to do this personally too, of like, all right, what can I do? And, I think one of the things we tried to help our players with from a social aspect was like, all right, who do you need in your life, and who do you want in your life? And those might be some, two different groups of people. So like, if you really need to see somebody, whether it's family or, if it's just a good friend who's going to give you those good vibes, well, then find a way that you can see them and do things with them that's safe for everybody. Somebody mentioned earlier, like, it's getting nice out again. Like, go outside, be creative with what you can do. I think making a plan is helpful in that way. And you can also just like figure out for yourself, like, I think you said the word balance before, and I think finding the balance in all this is really important from like a mental health standpoint. You can't speak enough about, it's really hard to give to others when you can't like be the full version of yourself. So making sure that you're understanding for yourself, like, what's giving you good vibes that you can do that might not be your sport. Like, if you feel better after your workout, great. Like, build that into your day. If you like to read books, do that. Watch a show to decompress. Like, you got to kind of have that time for yourself too. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, like, if you're in a bad place, like, it's okay to talk to somebody about it and ask for help. Like, even if it is just like going for a walk with that person that you need to be with, that can be really, that can lift a lot of weight off your shoulders. So, making sure you're taking care of you and finding creative ways to be with the other people that you need in your life is important.
Awesome, Coach Thompson. And the Springfield College minds think alike. You stole the transition right there. Coach Edmed, I was going to ask you again, athletes, stubborn. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to outwork every challenge that's in my path. It's not necessarily a reflex to be able to ask for help or say, hey, I'm struggling. who's around me that can provide some sort of support to maybe dig me out of this little hole. Did you have any instances of that and with your athletes, and talk a little bit about how you worked through that challenge?
Yeah. I think we've all had those challenges, and I want to say a quick shout out to the young gentleman that's got his camera on the whole time. So I appreciate that. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Kanye?
Kanye.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think something that's super important for our players, or something that and maybe I'm going to go a little off topic here, Dan, and feel free to steer me back in. But
take it.
The athletes are super competitive by nature. And one of the ways that we're learning through athletics is through the affective domain. And how do we teach that behavioral connection that they're missing? And, you can learn cognitively online, and psychomotorly, you can kind of figure things out by just going out for a workout, but it's that engagement that's missing. And how do we learn behaviorally and emotionally with our teammates? And so we had players that really struggled with that. It took our staff a little while to kind of identify it and find ways that we could just be a little bit creative, I guess, and trying to bring out that behavioral challenge or that emotional challenge. And there's a bunch of different ways that we figured out that some people needed that. And that was just by kind of talking it out to hear what people are thinking about and what they're worried about and what they're excited about, and being able to share those things. And, something that was important for us to learn was just to be vulnerable with our emotional aspect in front of each other. And that's a really tough skill. We're still trying to figure it out. But, when you're in sports, you're going to make a mistake, right? You're going to fumble the ball every now and again. You're going to, hit the ball out of bounds. You're going to miss a shot or whatever it happens to be. And that's your vulnerability. And it's just part of sports. And we know how to kind of mitigate that a little bit. But when we have to do that from an emotional standpoint, just by talking about it, it reveals a whole new sense of who we are. And that's kind of, I guess, how we tried to deal with it is we came up with some really easy, quick, fun stuff to kind of get people talking about their emotions and how they're feeling. But then we tried to dive a little bit deeper into some pretty heavier stuff as people were interested in sharing that, and we're able to kind of dig out and allow people to express how they're feeling a little bit more and more, and just support them through that process. But
awesome. Thanks, Coach Edmed. Appreciate it there. And I think, again, an important message to remember, and everybody kind of touched on it. Hey, do the best that you can, right? And it might feel really tough some days. It might come easy some days. Do the best that you can, but never shy away from asking for help. And everybody on this call has those people that they can count on no matter what. Have that Rolodex nearby. And when you need it, I think it takes a level of courage to be able to ask for it. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you soft. It doesn't make you, someone that doesn't, shouldn't be part of a program. It means that you had the courage to recognize that you're struggling, and it's time to ask, time to call on the reserves for support. Hey, last segment right here. So, and this is unique, and this is something I've never really been a part of, the whole recruiting process, right? Coaches can't come to schools like they used to and visit and watch games and sit down in the office and have these visits. So, it falls on the athlete a little bit here to maintain a level of communication with coaches at the universities with the programs that they might be interested in. So we're going to hear from everybody on this question. Just talk a little bit about, from your vantage point, and remember, every coach is a little bit different. Every program's a little bit different. The best high school athlete with regards to communication and talking through the process, what type of tempo are you looking for as a college coach? Are you looking for text message, email, phone? Just talk, really anything with regards to suggestions about how to communicate effectively during this time when you don't get to see each other in person as much. And Coach Loney, bat and lead off.
So obviously, in our conference, with all of our recruiting rules and regulations that we have, and the handcuffs sometimes we have, I think a positive social media profile is really huge, especially in football. I don't know. Twitter's huge for us in football, especially. If you have, having good huddle, being proactive, so hey, being able to telling us who you are, telling us what you've got going for grades. I stress that. I mean, every coach on here wants to know what your grades are. And it matters more and more and more now. And it's only going to help you if they know. And just, obviously telling people, knowing having an idea what you really want out of the school. If you don't know, you don't know, that's fine. But, that's a big piece of it, helping us out in terms of, here's where I'm academically, here's some things that I want to do if I know. But that social media piece is really a big piece of it. I think it's because you're going to reach as many people as possible, and being proactive, with that part of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Coach Duncan, take us away.
All right. So my bit of advice right now is 2 words. It's being patient, but also proactive. And what I mean by that is patient in regards that the recruiting game has definitely changed. Especially in our sport, we could go spend a weekend down at a tournament field and see 40 kids play, say hi to them all, and cover 40 kids in a space of maybe 2 12-hour days. Now trying to cover 40 kids over email, watching film, calling guidance counselors, calling club and high school coaches takes longer than just, being down at a field and physically being able to see these people. So have a little bit of patience in the process. Don't get disheartened if you don't hear back from somebody right away. But also be proactive and persistent, because again, we are being influxed with emails a lot more than we normally would, and it's taking longer to get through them. So, if you don't hear from us in a good time frame, don't be afraid to send another email. Keep on our radar, kind of bug us a little bit. I don't want to speak for every coach. I know, maybe not everyone wants to get that many, but we can always delete them. But what I'm saying is you've got to kind of keep in our forefront. If you send one email and we don't hear from you again for another month, then, you're going to be a little bit easily forgotten if you're kind of just falling in the mix with everybody else. So you've also got to be a little bit proactive and persistent in this recruiting process now, and find a way to stand out amongst, 30, 40 emails a day. What can you do that's a little bit different? Making sure that you're addressing the right school with the right coach and the right conference, and putting yourself into a category where we think you're interested in us, and then we can kind of continue that process with you. But be patient though. There's a school out there for everyone. It's definitely different this year than it's ever been. But believe in yourself, believe in your ability. If you've done the hard work and you continue to do the hard work, you'll end up somewhere. I can't always guarantee it's going to be your first choice. It might not even be a second choice. But I think if you're the right person, even like Coach Kevin said, good social media platform, you're doing the right things academically, you're doing the right things socially, you'll end up somewhere. You just need to be patient with the process.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Duncan. Coach Klepacki, take us.
I think each coach has it with their personality, right? And how long they've maybe been at an institution, and finding out what that coach's timeline is on things, and how they go through the recruiting philosophy. That each one of us has a different way that we go through this whole process to get to the end game. One person might have a situation where, they want to really, buddy up. And then other people might be wanting you to make your own decision and want to be a little bit more hands off. And they're going to provide information and help you, but they're not going to, try to win you over, right? Like, it's not the ESPN aspect, right? And there's not going to be a marching band there, that kind of stuff, and, I think what you can do is, like the coaches have said, stay persistent with it, and then be at a point that, you have a good idea of what you're looking for. Meet with your guidance counselors. Be able to have honest conversations with your high school coaches, or if you have a club coach or an AAU coach, have that where do you see me play? Am I shooting the moon out of it? And then, you got to have the right fit of what does the school provide? How far do you want to be from home? All those things, and certain graphics that are going to, turn you away. A couple of days ago, I had a guy call me and say, Coach, I'm going to ASU. I'm going to Arizona State. And we kind of said, how did you look at Western New England and Arizona State? Those are not the same, you know? And his comment was like, well, I want to go to Arizona, you know, and Springfield, Mass is not Arizona, you know? So I'm glad he made that choice before he paid a deposit, right? Because I can't turn Springfield, Mass into Arizona. We're going to have some snow. So, you know, I think you have to look towards that and be persistent, and then allow coaches to finally say yes or no, you know, and have plans for yourself of where it is, because the recruiting process, it doesn't mean playing time. It's opportunities to come try out, or opportunities to, you know, have a roster spot. There's so much more out of this process, you know, and I do think COVID has created some good situations where we can be more effective of being at home with our families and being, you know, in our offices and seeing the film and having, you know, you're going to get film at some point, and being able to send out little bits of film of yourself of this is how you play for evaluations. You got something, you'll have something, you will, at some point you will. And, you know, you might be in a situation where, hey, this is the place I'm going to be, and I'm going to earn a walk-on spot. And that shouldn't scare you. You know, you should feel like that's something that, you know, you want to go to because that school is the perfect fit, you know. And I think understanding when you talk to coaches, are you an email guy? Are you a text message guy? Are you a phone call guy? If you're awful on the phone and you're uncomfortable, tell the coach, hey, coach, the best way for us to chat right now is probably going to be text message until I come to your campus. And then when you go to that campus, have a family member with you. Have a family member in the room, right? And you do the talking. And if it looks like, you know, hey, look, you're getting overwhelmed, don't afraid to have a family member step in a little bit to kind of keep you on track. Because sometimes, like, I bet you every coach here has a story of how they were saying something to a recruit, and the recruit was thinking one thing, but mom and dad were hearing something different, you know? So, you know, be able to at some point, you're going to have it via Zoom. And, you know, one of our guys that's coming in next year, I remember his dad was on the Zoom with him, and I don't think dad said pop or anything. You know, he was real quiet. But at the end, you know, he said, Coach, we're going to go talk and discuss some stuff. And then, you know, Greg's going to call you back. And then Greg had a bunch of questions because they wanted to make sure that they heard it the right way and wanted my perspective of it, of what their experience is going to be at the school, you know, and I think that's important. At some point, you're going to be able to get to college campuses. You know, I know some of them are still in a lockdown mode, and some of them are allowing tours, you know, and you can always, you know, there's recruiters on every campus. They're called admissions office. You don't have to talk to a college coach to get a lot of information about a university. Allow that admissions office to do their job, and then connect with the college coach that maybe you gain a lot of information from the admissions office. That's going to impress that coach because you know details about that school that it looks like you've done your homework. And if you look like you've done your homework, now you're eager, and that's gonna help you with the process.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Klepacki. Coach Edmed, you're up next, my friend.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Lots of great stuff there. You know, definitely think about your recruiting style and what you want your presentation to be as well as an individual. And one of the things that I love to ask athletes to try to learn more about them is when they're like, hey, coach, how often do you want me to send you stuff, or how often should we communicate? And I just say, whenever there's something that you do that excites you, right? Like it could be that, hey, man, I just hang clean, you know, 135 pounds 10 times or whatever it happens to be. I know we don't have any volleyball players doing that, by the way, but I'm just throwing a random thing out there. Or it could be like a great play you had in a game, or it could be that you got a great score on an exam, or something in your personal life. You know, you got selected the lead role in a theater production. And I love just telling people whenever something happens that excites you, I'd love to hear about it because it lets me learn about your personality, what's important to you. And that's kind of, you know, it's easy to evaluate talent. Like I think most coaches here will know, like just within like a minute or two, even less than that, a lot of times, of watching a video of, yep, this person can play in my gym or on my field or in the court. it's the other stuff that takes a little bit of time. And so just letting us know what excites you is awesome. I love it.
Awesome. Love it. And Coach Thompson, take us home. Finish the drill here.
I want to play for all of you guys. Great information. I'm going to kind of finish this by just talking about some actual basics of when you are contacting coaches. I can't tell you how many emails that I get from people who are sending it to a different coach at another school, or they spell Roger Williams wrong in their email, or, you know, I'm used to getting a lot of like mass emails, and that's fine, but I get excited by somebody who, you know, tells me why they were interested in Roger Williams. You know, like I see you have a great program, and, you know, I love the majors there. To me, as somebody who is investing a little more time is a little more meaningful to me. So I'm going to probably do a little bit more homework right off the bat on that person. Because like Laura mentioned, I mean, especially now we're getting like bombarded by tons and tons of emails. So somebody who is a little more diligent and paying attention to those things makes a difference for me. You know, I would say like for film stuff, you know, as John said, like at some point you will get film if you don't already. And it's always worth asking a coach like what kind of film they prefer. I mean, I always say like a highlight film is great, but like anybody can look good in a highlight film. So, you know, for me, like personally, I prefer to, you know, the highlight's great, but I would love to see a full game because I want to see the mistakes you're making too. You know, you can't go through a basketball game without making mistakes. So for me, it's about looking for how you're responding or the kind of mistakes you're making. And that's important to me too. And then, you know, the last thing I would say, and some of the coaches have sort of alluded to this about, you know, this is an investment in yourself and you're trying to find the right fit for you as a whole in terms of your next step in your college process. And I think, you know, for me, when a recruit is meeting with me, I will always say, you know, do you have any questions for me? And if somebody has zero questions for me, especially, you know, if we're just sort of getting started in the conversation, I'm a little concerned that they may not be that engaged in investing in their own future or the next step. And sometimes, like, you know, somebody might be just really early in the process and not really know what to ask. But you guys who are on here right now have already taken a great step. So, you know, before you go and do a visit or before you have a phone call with a coach, write down a couple questions, write down some things that you really want to find out, and be ready to ask those things, because I think it shows a lot about you and, you know, how interested you might be in that particular school too. So, but that said, if there's a place for everybody, so do your own homework, ask questions, and you'll find the right spot for you.
Love it. Love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 8:00 and I do want to honor the schedules of the coaches because I know they're busy and they're in the middle of a long day like everybody else. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. Any of the attendees, if you have a clarifying question about anything that was discussed tonight, you can email it to me. I can get in touch with the coaches and get a response back for you. I would just ask that you try to get that question emailed to me in the next day or two. I saw Coach Thompson threw her email in there as well. But I want to honor the time. I'll also be editing and posting the audio as an episode of our podcast. If you have a friend or a parent who wants to listen in, it'll be available on our website tomorrow evening. And last but not least, and I'm a little older, so the technology gets the best of me at times. I'm going to also turn this into a video as well, and get it up on our YouTube channel and on our website also. So it'll be available on social platforms, website. All the coaches are wonderful. I told you this group is rock solid right here. The emails are in the chat there. But again, I think Have the courage to ask the questions. Have the courage to focus on that you can control. And you're going to get through this. You're going to get noticed, and you're going to find your way to the right spot if you put in the work for it. So appreciate you all attending tonight. Wish you the best of luck moving forward. Finish the drill. Have a great rest of the school year. Be safe, be smart. See you next time. Thank you so much, everybody.